Hey guys, I'm Tiffany and you found me on the Wise Guys channel. Today I'm going to talk about the October forecast for 2022. There's a lot that I'm excited to talk about today. I've broken it into three groups. Okay, so October 1st through 10th, the 11th through 20th, and then the 21st through the 31st. And the reason I broke it up like that is because when we have been learning in psychic development, our psychic development circles, how to pick time and dates, that's a really helpful way to break up the month. So if you're psychically trying to pick up information and you break it into thirds, you can kind of feel, is it the first third, the second third, or the third third? And so I made that shift this month. Let me know if you like it. I'm also going to draw a card for each third of the month. What's going on astrologically is that we've got Mars and Jupiter going retrograde while Saturn, Pluto, and Mercury station direct. We have a really interesting full moon that I want to talk about because it relates into the nodal shift next year. And then we also have some interesting things to talk about with Pluto. So before we get going, a little bit of housekeeping. I want to invite you to our psychic development circles, which are happening on Tuesdays at noon. You can drop in for $22 if you'd like to join us. It's important to develop your psychic muscles and to not just let them sit and just to come practice in circle with us. So we would love to have you on October 19th. Tawny Lewis is going to be teaching paranormal investigation for the psychic medium with us at 6 o'clock Central Time. And I'm so excited to have her. We've had her on the podcast recently. You can listen to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and you can also find video of the podcast on our YouTube channel. If you're new to the channel, Wise Skies is a metaphysical counseling company. We offer one-on-one services like astrology charts, psychic mediumship, Akashic records, and human design. And so we would love to have you as a client or to have you as a member. Our members get 2 different readings a month and 2 different classes a month. And so if you're interested in this ongoing training and support to use these tools, we would love to have you. So check it out at wiseskiescollective.com. Every Friday on YouTube, I do a Tarot Friday. And so I go through all of the signs in the zodiac. So everybody gets a reading. And that's another just fun thing that you might want to add to your weekend routine. So let's jump into October. The first thing I like to talk about is the numerology shift. So numerology, it will shift from a 6-month into a 7-month. We're still in a 6 year. So we have this frequency combination of the 7-month during the 6 year. The 7 is really about kind of being a little bit more internal, being a little bit more quest-like that inside search for meaning, for life's deeper purposes. I think of the owl and I think of wisdom when I think about the 7, but the 6 is still about being at home. So a lot of self-study at home, a lot of staying curious about life's mysteries, coming home, your celestial home, learning about the afterlife. These type of topics are probably going to be interesting to people. You've seen a lot more information come out about like psychedelics on Netflix and Amazon. You've seen the play of consciousness and these studies of life and death and rebirth. And I think this might be a good month to catch up on some of those metaphysical topics that you might be interested in. Okay, so in the astrology, I'm going to do a quick overview and then give you the hot dates for the best days and maybe the days to lay low, and then we'll go into the week by week play. On October, so Mercury is going to move from Virgo to Libra and then into Scorpio. So Mercury will hit 3 signs this month. Pluto will go direct in Capricorn. We're talking about a long game, but Pluto is going to shift into Aquarius, and we're going to talk about that next year. Okay. Mercury, yeah, we'll leave its shadow. Venus will Cazimi on October 22nd. So Cazimi is in the heart of the sun. So the sun will conjunct Venus on October 22nd. So if you're planning to get married, I would check out that date. It happens usually once a year. I think we got it twice this year, actually. I think we had it once in January, which is unusual. You might need to fact check me on that, but usually it's about a once a year thing. So Venus will be in the heart of the sun on the 22nd. That for sure is one of my selected good days. The Saturn will go direct in Aquarius. This is also interesting because it soon will shift into Pisces, and we're going to talk about that later. Jupiter retrograding into Pisces, Mercury entering Scorpio, and then Mars retrograding at the end of the month in Gemini. That's the universal symbol for retrograde. Okay, guys. So information being weaponized, things like this coming up, because of course Mars will be in shadow up until it retrogrades. And so there's some things that are kind of below the surface that I want to talk about. Did you see my cute little Texas necklace? Oh, hi. Okay, got this in Comanche, Texas. I went to a little shop to pick up some pottery that my aunt made and got that too. Okay, the moons this month, we've got on the 3rd, we've got the first quarter moon in Capricorn. On the 9th, we've got the full moon in Aries, very significant moon I want to talk about. And the 17th, we've got the 3rd quarter moon in Cancer. The 25th, the new moon eclipse will be at 2 degrees of Scorpio. I know we're all hyped up about this eclipse, especially because the next one will fall on the election date for the United States. But I'm kind of like, I don't know, I've got some ideas about the full moon and the eclipse. We'll get to that. The quick guidance for the month in love, there's, Venus and the sun are going to enter Scorpio. That's very sensual. That's very divine, masculine, feminine. That's very much the dance of Shiva and his consorts. It's very much this like kind of juicier time in love. So you can be exploring a deeper connection. In money, I'm going to keep saying diversify, keep track of the details, and keep it simple. And then start to use the moon cycles when you're making investments, investing maybe on the new moon and then watching that 27-month cycle. So if you need some help with that, just drop a comment and I will make sure to get you some resources. In health, I'm going to say let's be taking some herbs for respiratory health with Mars, that sign of aggravation, anger, stimulation, blood flow and circuitry and inflammation is in the sign of Gemini, which rules our lungs. And so it's there for an 8-month stay, right? Usually it's there for a couple of months. And so I'm saying in health this month, really take care of your lungs, your respiratory health, with herbs or tinctures or things that you could just easily add that your system would naturally appreciate. Days to lay low. The first is kind of wonky. There's big opposition. You might be overspending, so just lay low on the 1st. The 11th and the 12th, also just some kind of toxic, dangery combos that are adding up. So just really just go slow those days. Days to say yes will be the 3rd and the 22nd. There are other really good days, and there are other really scary days too, but those are the ones I'm picking out. So say yes, the 3rd, the 22nd. I told you guys about the workshops. So let's jump into October 1st through 10th. So this is the first third of the month. The key word is going to be minimalist, minimize, stay focused. Mercury retrograde is over on the 2nd. It will be direct in the sign of Virgo. Mercury rules Virgo and will be there until October 10th. So you can use this first part of the month to bring extra precision to processes and procedures, to do kind of checklisty type things, to clear out the clutter, to be a little bit more refined in your approach and processes, to get stuff out of your head and onto paper, to bring the earth element, right, Virgo into it. Virgo is the healer too. So making sure that all of like you're receiving healing information, maybe that positive self-talk, stuff like that can work. Your Virgo rules pets too, and the garden. And so sometimes our pets need special diets or special care. So if you have like a pet that's having or been having some type of allergic reaction, you might look at the source of their food, or you might look at some different special care for them, especially as it's coming out of retrograde. There might be some, I guess, agitations that show up for them, and you can support them that way. Okay, so whatever needs to be organized and mapped out, this is a good time to be doing it. On the 3rd, we've got that first quarter moon in 9 degrees of Capricorn. So this is a turning point. The first quarter moon is an action, a crisis moon where you need to do something, you need to make something happen, and that's not always the case. But this first quarter moon in Capricorn, right? So the Capricorn moon family cycle, something that started about 9 months ago, what was that for you? And what was seeded that is now like you're in action about? You might not have to do anything, but you might observe and be aware of what is taking root for you, and what are you doing, right? And is it related to where 9 degrees of Capricorn is in your chart? What house is that in? Capricorn, we like to talk about that as ruling our ambitions, but it's more than that, right? Like Capricorn is the sea goat. So there's this element of where you want to rise to the top, be seen in the public eye, but there's also this very mysterious kind of underworld feeling, this like crystal magic feeling that Capricorn has, this plant magic feeling in some ways to me. So what's pressurizing you right now? And is it for the purpose of this yang positive action to be going forward. The Sabian symbol for this moon is kind of weird. It's an albatross feeding from the hand of a sailor. This is a theme that I'm going to carry into the second week. An albatross feeding from the hand of a sailor. So I had to look up albatross because isn't it a bad omen and is it a good omen? And so the symbolism of albatross, you know, there's some that say it's good and some that say it's a symbol of being greedy, being aggressive. Some say that on the positive side, it's a symbol of freedom and hope and strength. And so I guess you're going to have to determine for yourself. And that's kind of the point of the Sabian symbols is, you know, they were psychically channeled and written down for each of the degrees of the zodiac. And there are people that have interpreted them. But for me, it's like the best interpretation is the one that you make. So with this moon on October 3rd, an albatross feeding from the hand of a sailor, you know, interesting. Worth kind of staying curious about as the month unfolds. The 5th through 7th, this is a good time to be on a fact-finding mission, to go into your undercover work. Mercury is going to trine Pluto and the sun is going to oppose Chiron. I think that you're going to get clues in, if you're somebody that's like in our psychic development circles that's really interested in developing your intuition, this is going to be an interesting time to be watching for signs from spirit, signposts from your loved ones on the other side, signposts that you're on path, that you're on the right track. Again, that there's important information. Mercury trine Pluto makes me think of Nancy Drew, right? I read all the Nancy Drew books growing up. And so it's like put on that, it's not deep and dark. It's more like and it's not quite as fluffy as like Scooby-Doo, you know what I mean? But there's something curious there. And so if you can stay curious about the metaphysical meaning of things or the other side of the coin, this is a good time of the month if you need to find facts, right, that have been previously hidden. Pluto is going to go direct on the 8th. Anytime one of the outer planets, we observe it going from retrograde to direct or vice versa, there's a slower energy to it. So, you know, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th, things might feel like a little bit denser in that field. You might feel more lethargic in some ways. And so don't freak out if that's the case. Just know that that might be a day where you don't schedule too much. Pluto's been in Capricorn since 2008. Yeah. So it's been on a Capricorn journey for a long time. And, you know, Pluto it's not like quite like the wrecking ball, but in some ways it is, because it transforms whatever it's around, right? Like it's a very mutative energy. And so it's been in Capricorn. So it's been changing, breaking down what? Governments, structures, businesses, military plans and strategies. Things have been kind of on this, not quite dissolving, but this, essentially the foundation has had to change. And it's been in there since 2008. It's changing next March in 2023. And it's going to go, of course, from Capricorn into Aquarius. Pluto hasn't been in Aquarius since 1777 to 1797. And you can think, the historians that like to watch this, you can inform us about all of the revolutions, right? Like the French Revolution, what was going on with the United States Constitution in the late, 1770s, right before 1780. Very interesting to look back in time, because Pluto in Aquarius is actually quite futuristic, quite rebellious, quite that revolutionary energy. So it's in this last gasp here of Capricorn. So I don't want to say like enjoy it while you can, but it will change, and it will change for quite a long time. It will be in Aquarius until 2044. So futuristic discoveries that shape the psyche of the future of humanity, right? Think about all of the Aquarius vibes. The collective consciousness is changing. What does that mean? Are we going to go back to smaller, more agricultural groups? Are we going to go back to different size groups, different borders, boundaries are changing? I don't know. Is it bigger? I don't know, right? But the idea is that Aquarius rules things like technology, robotics. It's a fixed air sign, so it can be very visionary in some ways. And all of these themes we will see unfold also in the spirit of revolution and the spirit of change. On October 9th, okay, this is one that I'm excited to talk about because we've got a full moon in 16 degrees of Aries. this to me is preparing us for the nodal shift that's happening in 2023. The Sabian symbol for this full moon is two prim spinsters sitting together in silence. Okay, so to me, that matches the 7 numerology that we were talking about. Sometimes no words are needed. Do you want to go on a silent date and just like sit and vibe with somebody else? Can you just be with yourself, with somebody else without having to talk or interact or explain or, you know what I mean? Can you just be, right? And you interpret that how you want, but that's what I was looking at. There, with the full moon in Aries, there's self-illumination, something that you're learning about yourself, that's something that is you're really proud of yourself about. And it's illuminated, right, in the light of the full moon. The full moon, we tend to think of closures. I know I've probably over taught that way. It's really the third peg of the four pegs of that moon family cycle, of the Aries moon family cycle. And so did I list the dates here? I did. Okay, so this larger 27-month cycle kicked off in April of 2021. So something was seeded, planted. Look back to April 2021. What were you thinking about? What was on your new moon wish list? What were you wanting to change? What were you wanting to call in? What was just happening in your life in April of 2021? And then you would look to January of this year, 2022, to see when it really kicked into gear, when it really got set into motion for you. And now this full moon in Aries is the time when you see it all and you're able to make the adjustments and you're able to make the pivots. And then it will find completion, this whole cycle, in July of 2023 as the nodes shift from Scorpio Taurus to Aries Libra, right? Libra Aries. The nodes were the nodes were in Libra Aries in September of 1939 to May of 1940. This symbolized a wartime for many. It also symbolized an economic reset. It also symbolized free agency and compromises, chosen partnerships. Okay, so what's happening in this full moon period of October 9th is giving us a little sneak peek of where things might be going next summer. And when the nodes shift, they're there for a little over a year, right? Year and a half or so, give or take. And so this is an interesting full moon because it's kind of a preview, a lighting up of energy on that nodal axis. Other things to be aware of during the full moon is that it's a high tide, right? Like it's an excess of energy. It's an excess of water, of blood flow. It's a time when karmic deadlines are approaching. And so there can be a sense of restlessness in some of us. And I also like this too, this interpretation that we can find things under the full moon. And I have this group that we have, like this group thread where we text homeopathic remedies back and forth to each other of what's working in our families. And I'm more observing, like I'm not a homeopathic expert, but I'm observing and learning because I think it's a really great tool and resource to have, especially when you're out in the country in the middle of nowhere, right? This is a medicine that can work quickly and immediately based on frequencies. So we've got this little side group going, and I mentioned that under the full moon that sometimes it's missing people are found, missing objects are found, and there's more light, right? And one of them texted back that they had found something that they had been looking for a really long time for one of their kiddos, and that just made my day. So maybe it'll help you too if you have lost objects, that might be a good time to either get an intuitive hit or literally see it. So so interesting, right? Two prim spinsters sitting together in silence. You know, what can you learn just in the silence? The full moon in Aries gives us this opportunity to have a new identity. Aries is I am. You know, making these I am declarations for yourself can be super empowering around this time. Now, there is this different vibe in the background. On October 10th, the day after, Mercury will enter Libra in shadow, and it's still in shadow zone, and Venus will oppose Chiron. And so it feels a little unpretty. It feels like people are renegotiating their terms of love or terms of relationships. It can feel like self-esteem issues pop up and bleed out. And so if you're having a big reaction, can you pause long enough to go back to the trigger that maybe happened somewhere else in the timeline and really deal with it at that inner child level, or deal with it whatever age it happened, instead of bleeding out on all over the person that you think that you're mad at, right? So we don't want to fix, argue, defend, explain, or justify things we want to go back and heal ourselves in the timeline. So I'm just noticing October 10th feels a little unpretty, and that full moon in Aries can kind of bring out some ego in some of us, or not you, but all those people out there, right? And so I just want you to be aware of it, that if you get some personalities in your life that are very like tunnel vision, or it's all about me, or they're unable to see kind of the compromise, they might need to for their own purposes, but you don't have to get caught up in it. It doesn't have to mean anything about you, right? So life is happening for me, not to me, that type of a thing. That was a long talk about the first third of October, and I know you want to see what card that we've got, so let's check that out. I'm just asking Spirit to join us for the reading today and see what card would best represent the energy that we need to focus on for the first third. Queen of Wands energy, right? This is very full moon in Aries. The Queen of Wands is like action-oriented, confident, clear, very precise, very ready to get out in the world and lead, and that full moon in Aries helps you find that Queen of Wands energy. So finding your own Queen of Wands interpretations too. How do you need to step into more of a leadership role in your own life? Where do you need to be more focused and confident with yourself, and everything's going to be okay in your kingdom, right? So this is mimics that first quarter moon in Capricorn, that action oriented, that royalty feeling. So take some ideas from that as well for the first third. For the second third of October, this is October 11th through 20th, okay? Smooth seas never made a skilled sailor. So I'm pulling from that albatross theme earlier, and I'm weaving it into this second third of the month, October 11th through 20th. Smooth seas never made a skilled sailor. So, I'm going to give you some ups and downs here. So Mercury is going to move into Hotel Libra the 10th through the 29th. So most of the month. And Mercury in Libra, it's just retrograded in Libra and Virgo, right? But we've had this focus on relationships for a while this year. And so I think that this is when things will start to get clearer and clearer for us. What would really benefit from a different perspective? Excuse me, if you think about where you have Libra in your chart, what house that's in, that could give you some ideas too. If you're brand new to astrology, you can go to astro.com, or there's several places you can get a free chart. And then we've got handouts for you under our tools and keys in the nav bar. There's gifts for you, and there's all kinds of astrology handouts you can start to play with, finding what house things are in for you. And that the house gives you a flavor of the location of the energy, right? So if Mercury in Libra is in your first house, you might have a different experience than if it's in your 12th house, right? Or versus your 4th house of home and family, or your 10th house of purpose and career and the gifts that you give your community, right? So knowing that extra piece of information can help you apply the forecast to your own chart on your own, right? You can be your own astrologer this month. And so overall, what benefits from a new perspective this second third of the month? The energy is going to shift down quite a bit. Even the 10th, 11th, 12th, the invitation is to connect with your elders, your mentors, your teachers. The sun is going to trine Saturn, which is positive. Normally, I would say hard work pays off, go for it. And again, that Saturn connecting with the wise elders in your group to give you leadership, mentorship. But behind it, what's going on is Mars is squaring Neptune and Mercury is opposing Jupiter. Okay, and so Mars, right, that and squaring Neptune, it's like something that gets your blood boiling, but there's also this sense of confusion, of doubt, of deception, of not having clear discernment. And so really lean into your Saturn keys, the wise elders, maybe an old book, maybe a podcast that you really liked a long time ago, something like that to help bring clarity to you, because the Mars squaring Neptune and Mercury opposing Jupiter, it feels like literal bad news. So it could be that in the media that we're hearing some bad news that week. It could be that there's bad decisions. It could be that there's unfair legal decisions. And I'll tell you what, guys, some legal decisions that I felt were unfair in my life were the biggest change for the positive in my life. It took a really long time to see that and feel that way. But just know that bad news, good news is but the idea here is it feels kind of like, ugh. So I'm not saying stop living your lives those days, but just be careful, go slow, be aware. Mars square Neptune, like it feels like Neptune is that planet of escapism and where things dissolve and where I want to get lost. And when Mars is square that, it's almost like overly toxic, you know what I mean? Like overdosing, drunk driving, things like this, or even just over the wrong medication. Like it could be an innocent accident. Somebody takes the wrong medication. I've done mediumship readings for that before. So, right, like it's very much that vibe of too much of something or too fast, or information that feels very toxic. Bad decisions, bad news, you get it. So be extra careful and stick with the winners, stick with the people that are living the life that you want. If you don't have a wise elder or mentor in your life, get one, right? Get one and stick with them. Be somebody's apprentice, you know, offer something to them and learn from them in return. The energy is going to shift back up right behind it on the 14th. Venus is going to trine Saturn. So really that Saturn is the medicine and the helper for you. So what is Saturn besides wise elders? It's discipline and routine. So if things feel really out of sorts or too much bad news, you're going to stay in your discipline. You're going to stay in your routine. This is not the time to screw your diet or screw your workout plan. It's like stay steady, keep in your meditation practice, and just kind of go the middle path. Like I said, the energy does shift up. Venus trine Saturn, it gets you back in the love zone. It gets you back in the things that you're really committed to, things that you're really devoted to. It gives you the ability to make headway in some of your more long-term goals. So keep that in mind, because right behind that on the 17th, we've got a third quarter or a last quarter moon in 24 degrees of Cancer, and Mercury leaves its shadow zone in Libra. This is harvest time. You know, this is one of those karma boomerang moments for what you planted 2.5 years ago is coming to fruition. The bill is getting paid. And if you got invoices, send those out, because this is a good day to get paid on the 17th. The sun is also going to trine Mars and Venus over the next few days. So there's a support of stamina and energy, and it feels a little bit better. A third quarter moon in Cancer, look back to that 2.5 year ago mark for when the new moon in Cancer 2.5 years ago were. What were you wishing for? What were you praying for? What were your intentions? Did you want to be more psychic, right? Because this is what's happening now. Did you want to have a home and family that you could create a special nest in? This is the time to see that things are coming to fruition for you with those Cancerian moon family themes, those moon phase themes. Okay. So we have that good moment. October 17th is one of my positive days, isn't it? Isn't it? Hang on. Let me scroll. No, I didn't. So I only gave you the 3rd and the 22nd because let's see, right behind that, that's why 18th and 19th, we got a lot going on. Venus is going to trine Mars, which sounds good, but the rest of it doesn't. Sun's going to square Pluto. Mercury is going to pose Chiron. Venus is going to square Pluto. And so this is that breakdown to breakthrough moment. So anything that has like been building, it's ready for a release so that you can have clarity and understanding. And there's a dissolving of a belief system. There's a radical nature to the energy on the 18th and the 19th. I had written a note, do you want to take a mental diet from negative thinking? So maybe that'll help you that last part of the middle of the month. So what do we need to know? What else do we need to know about this second, I guess, third, the middle of the month? What do we need to know? What did we miss in the astrology and numerology that could really help bring things together for us? Okay, we get the 7 of Swords. It happens to be reversed. So this is, to me, this is speaking of that earlier Mars-Neptune square the Mercury Jupiter opposition. This is a card of protection where we really need to change our passwords, make sure that we have kept good company, make sure that our security cameras have the batteries in the game camera, you know what I mean, stuff like this. And so this is an extra caution, I guess, caution light, you know, to really play it safe that middle of the month. All right. The 21st through the 31st, also very pivotal. Pivotal is your keyword. On the 22nd, Venus is going to enter the heart of the sun, Cazimi. Love is in the air. You can think about Venus is this pleasure transit, right? You want to think luxury, love, also a little bit of laziness, right? Being slow and enjoying the sensual side of life, the sweet side of life, the creature comforts, time to relax. Like I said, you know, if you're planning a wedding October 22nd under Venus Cazimi, that might be something I would pick. The next Venus Cazimi dates, so I mentioned that they just come about once a year. So 2023, you're looking at August 13th. 2024, you're looking at June 4th. In 2025, you're looking at March 22nd, and so on. So I listed some of those in the full forecast for you. But love is in the air. So it feels like Venus is in the heart of the sun, right? And so what is illuminated and conjuring up in your hearts that day. And then on the 23rd, it turns into Scorpio season, right? Venus and the sun both move into Scorpio the very next day on the 23rd, which I love, right? There's this deeper meaning, this deeper connection. Superficial stuff isn't going to fly. You can't just be like asking about the weather and seeing how the kids are doing. You have to, it's like a time when people want to know more and to get into the underbelly of things. If you have not scheduled a psychic mediumship reading, I would love to do that for you. We have samples. This might be a time when you want to connect with the afterlife in a different way. It might be a time when you're wanting to take, you know, do your bucket list or take life a little bit more seriously, not in an emergency way, but in a like, wow, what a miracle that we get to live this one precious human life right now, right? So another thing that's going on is that we've got some Mercury stuff going on, studying, organizing, paying bills, like all of those kind of commitment, day-to-day stuff is going to be smooth. Really good lineup if you're needing to check boxes off your list. If you've let stuff stack up, you can get it off your plate. Mercury is going to trine Saturn, which goes direct in Aquarius. And so like we were talking about, Pluto is in the last gasp of Capricorn and will move into Aquarius next year. The other thing that's happening is that, let's see, Saturn is going to move into Pisces from March of 2023. So March 2023 is going to be a big month. All the astrologers are going to be talking about it, and it will stay there until May of 2025. So what is Saturn in Pisces? This is that spiritual reformation. You can go back in time when Saturn was in Pisces, and we have that listed in our 2023 digital calendar. So all of those dates are there for you. But the idea here is like Saturn and Pisces over time is when we've had spiritual reformation in history. Saturn in Aquarius, where it is right now, it's still that futuristic, tech-oriented, new technologies, upgrades, things like this, group thinking, right? The collective consciousness, new groups being formed, but then it will move into that Pisces sea of undoing, that sea where things dissolve and maybe work at a different level. And so building your psychic development muscles now is going to definitely help you next spring when things feel maybe a little bit more nebulous. Maybe your belief system, maybe your faith is being challenged so that you can really know what you believe in. You know, stuff like this is going on in the underpinnings. Is that a word, underpinnings? I don't know, but you know what I mean. On the 25th, this is the one that the astrologers are excited about, right? The new moon eclipse is at 2 degrees of Scorpio. These are pivotal historic times, right? And every generation goes through this, but I wanted to bring up the Sabian symbol and then also look at this moon family cycle with you. The Sabian symbol for this one is neighbors help in a house raising party in a small village. Doesn't that sound like the restructuring Aquarian vibes we've been talking about, right? Neighbors help in a house raising party in a small village. I think of like all of the Alaska shows where the neighbors get together and everybody helps each other out. I mean, that's my like dream vision of it. I'm sure that it's much different than what is portrayed, but the idea here is that like helping your neighbor out and helping them build something for them with nothing, not asking anything in return. It's not like neighbors help in a house raising party in a small village and get something out of it, you know? So this is an interesting Sabian symbol that's associated with this very powerful eclipse in Scorpio where everything's changing. You want to give yourself a lot of breathing room during an eclipse. It feels like we're living 100 days in 24 hours. It feels like a lot of Scorpio, right? Liberation, power, magic, personal power. Are you using your personal power wisely? You know, do you even, have you, I don't know, I'm just going to leave that one alone. Vitality, renewal. Scorpio is governed by both Pluto and Mars is about to go retrograde, right? So this Scorpio energy is very stimulated from Venus and the sun moving in from this eclipse, and then also from Mars going retrograde very soon. So this idea of that, of what do you want to change at a deeper level, that soul quest energy, that's something that is really kind of this deeper meaning of life, is a pattern that we are seeing over and over and over again this month. So more is going to be shown over time. Don't feel like you're missing out if nothing crazy interesting happens for you on this eclipse. Usually with eclipses, it's that we look back, and that has been true for my life 100%. I can look back on the eclipses and be like, that's when that thing happened. I didn't maybe know it at the time, but you can see it in reverse. This moon family cycle, so it starts today. It starts on that August 25th. The four acts of this 4-act play. The first one is October 25th. A new cycle starts in Scorpio. You know, Scorpio, it gets a bad rap for being jealous and revengeful, and so you might see some of those darker tones in the media too. But just know that there's a beautiful side of Scorpio too that is all about restoration, revitalization, the phoenix rising, right? So a new cycle starts. Where is 2 degrees of Scorpio in your chart? And you'll know more about that story. Now we're going to be poised for action on July 25th with this moon of next year. Oh, good. I have a date wrong. And then more will be revealed under the full moon in April of 2024, and the mission will be complete in January of 2025. So we're looking at this expansive time, right? This 27-month cycle that is starting with this very pivotal moment in history with this particular eclipse. Scorpio is the healthy use of sexuality too, right? So brahmacharya for our yogis that are following. Now, I have a lot more to talk about with that. Let's pull a card. Okay, of course we get the High Priestess. So, you know, the mystery schools, the psychic development continues to be a really big theme. I'm just going to leave it there because I want to be sensitive of the time of our forecast here. We're getting to the end of the month. On October 27th, Mercury is going to trine Mars and square Pluto. So focus, think it through. You don't have to have all the answers. You can discern, does it matter? You know what I mean? But also it's like that time, this time of the month where things feel like they're being misrepresented. We're still in that eclipse energy. We're not really sure. We understand that more will be revealed. So misunderstanding, misinterpretation, even deception, even intentional deception, you know, unfortunately. And so maybe it's a time when you can see some of things for what they are instead of what you had hoped they would be, and just kind of ease your way through that, I guess, the 27th, a date to really help you stay focused on what matters. Maybe that's the best way of saying it. Jupiter's going to retrograde into Pisces on the 28th. Jupiter, so if you think about Pisces, right, we talk about the sea of undoing, or the spiritual, or the charitable one, or the one who likes to contribute or be in the arts or write new songs, or, you know, things like this. But there's also this opportunity to connect with spiritual teachers. So earlier in the month, when I told you Saturn is your ally, discipline, routine, and wise elders, Pisces and Saturn, it's very different vibes, but there's still this like yearning to connect and to be at one with a spiritual teacher. So as Jupiter retrogrades, it takes on a mini Saturn vibe, right? So it takes on the opposite nature of what it is. And so again, that mini Saturn vibe would be working with a spiritual teacher, right? So also be sure to think your lucky stars, because what you're thinking about expands. Jupiter rapidly, right? That magic carpet ride type feeling, astral travel type feeling, lucid dreams, stuff like this. And I want to mention, guys, like, by the way, Jupiter will eventually get into Taurus in May of next year. So next spring, I'm looking at October not only as a numerology preview of next year, because it's a 7-month, and next year, 2023, will be a 7-year, but also there's 3 patterns here that are like, look at next spring, look at next spring. And so I want to bring that up to your attention, because what I'm talking about is Jupiter in Taurus in May of 23 is a period of optimism. It's a period of prosperity globally. The resets and the shifts, like, that's kind of a better time in general. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. And then on the 29th, Mercury is going to enter Scorpio. So a big Scorpio party. This gives a more calculated approach, a drier sense of humor, a darker sense of humor, an interest in mystery books. Of course, we're having our paranormal investigator, Tani Lewis, coming to teach us a class on October 19th. It's that like interesting side, anything that you've been scared of. This is the time of a month to face it, you know, and to really learn about it. I'm not suggesting that you do something dangerous. This is not the right month to do something dangerous or book crazy travel, but it might be time to really face your fears through Scorpio things, past life regression, a metaphysical reading, a psychic mediumship reading. It might be time to get curious about it and read more and learn about the afterlife, the angelic realm, the dream side, what it's like to lucid dream. Stuff like this can really give you that different perspective that Mercury and Libra for such a long time has been showing you, right? So at the end of the month, Mars will retrograde in Gemini. So this is the last one I'm going to talk about. We'll pull a card, and then we'll be done with the October forecast. This is a trick, not treat moment. You know, Mars in Gemini, we have this 8-month period. It retrogrades from October 30th all the way until January 12th. So for the rest of the year, Mars is like aggression, anger, determination, stamina, blood flow, piercing, masculine. There can be a healthy use of Mars. Now, if you think about Gemini, right, early childhood education, schools, I'm thinking about, will there be some gun safety reform for elementary schools? Gemini rules the lungs and respiration. Will there be some inflammation or something that gets spread around again, right? Gemini rules information. Will there be some banned books, or will they be released? Will they be liberated from being banned? Will there be some violent words, right? So will there be some issues that are forced, or some words like meaning law too, things forced into law? Will some of these negotiations be taken back too, like reneged in a way, like not valid? And so just be aware that sometimes when things happen in a retrograde, it's like we're reconsidering things, and it's time to visit the revising, redoing, restructuring. What words, things that involve Gemini, words, communications, data, schools, early childhood schools, siblings, is another one. So if you've had a heated past with your siblings, this might be a time when some of the issues spill out so that they can come back together for healing and clarity. There's a lot to talk about with Mars and Gemini, and Celeste Brooks did a beautiful workshop for our members that I'm going to put back in our shop so that you can learn from it if you would like to. And she really goes in depth about it in such a beautiful way. So if this topic is like, oh, I want to learn about that, check it out in our shop tab at wiseskiescollective.com, and I'll make it available for you guys. So that's it. Let's look at a card for the third of the month, and see what it is we need to know. that might have been missed in the astrology. The Ten of Cups. Who would have thought we would have gotten this? But this Ten of Cups is your Venus Cazimi moment. So there is a light in this storm, in this crazy period. And if you think about, like, to me, it's like the time that my grandparents got married, you know what I mean? Not like that one time, but it's like in history, it feels very romanticized. And I'm thinking about specifically my dad's parents, because she was 16 and he was 18. She was Baptist, he was Jewish, and it was a very different kind of a marriage in a very small town in Texas, right? And so they had a beautiful love story. His parents are the ones that immigrated from Russia to Texas, and why I went on that whole genealogy journey with going to Galveston and seeing where the ships came in, and doing my ancestral tarot reading with my friend Addie, who does her company is Don't Fear the Death card. But I think of this card, this like pure innocent, there's like some kind of more innocent feeling to the love story. But they also connected during a time of war when my granddad and his brothers had to go off to war. And so there's this tension in the love story, but there's still this innocence and purity and hope and like feeling of uniting both as a couple and then as a nation in some ways, right? So depending on where you're watching from, that may not make a whole lot of sense, but the idea is there's some sweetness in this last part of the month that I wasn't expecting to pull this card. So there is a moment of sweetness that's going to happen around the 22nd for us. And just know that even in times of war or trouble or economic disrepair or personal tower card moments or upheaval of any kind, there's still this like return to love, whether you're in partnership or not. That love can be that connection that you have with your higher power, with your creative source energy. If you've forgotten that, if you've ever felt lonely, right, or depressed, it's like just sit in meditation and try to expand your energy out to connect with your guides, to connect with your loved ones. They're with you all the time. They're not going to leave you. You do get moments of privacy. We can answer questions about that, of course, but the idea here is that nobody is going to be alone through all of this. Through all of these cataclysmic changes, normal changes, everyday life. Of course, there's normal ups and downs, and the astrology helps us know when this too shall pass and what to stay focused on. So I've been mentioning Saturn. Stay focused on your wise elders, connect with your mentors, do regular check-ins, see, am I thinking about this right or am I not? Even when you're talking with your lovers, your best friends, your families, it's like, hey, I'm feeling like kind of attacked, or I'm taking that in a certain way. Can you help clarify? I'm sure that's not what you meant. Can we talk this through a little bit and return to love? We're all walking each other home. And this Ten of Cups card gives me a lot of hope. Also, I really like October, so I want it to go well for everybody. I love the Scorpio energy. I have 4 planets natally in Scorpio in my 12th house, so I have a lot of experience in that world. And I'm so glad you're here. I appreciate you being here for the full October forecast. And we hope to see you at wiseskiescollective.com for sessions, classes, our membership. Our blog has a lot of great useful information. And let's do one last universal reading for that person watching that is still just has something on their mind or heart. Okay. All right, the 4 of Pentacles, right? It's reversed. So again, being conservative and going slow and stabilizing your energy and noticing when something feels a little bit fired up in your central nervous system and trying to work through that to get back to a more stable place is going to be some helpful medicine this month. Okay, guys, thanks for being here. And until next time, I'm Tiffany, and namaste.